All right, so all this Deadpool phenomenal news has got me thinking about a conversation that Hollywood's going to try to have eventually. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like on comic book characters that could actually benefit from a hard R rating without making a shot-for-shot retelling of a story. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think a couple movies out there um, could be shot for shot and still get a PG-13 rating. Um, Like, take for instance, the Wanted movie, or the Wanted series, comic book series. I thought it was absolutely phenomenally done the way they rethought about villains in a superhero world. What if they actually won? What if the superheroes took over and made it to a point where they could actually take over everything, right? When they did the movie, I was really disappointed in the movie, not only because they completely changed the story and the characters and the story arc, but because it was no longer about supervillains. It was just a guild of assassins, morally ambiguous. Didn't really matter which way they went. They just did what they were contracted to do, and it's kind of cliche when you think about it. When you take this great idea and you're like, no, let's take it and go a completely separate way, and you're like, no, that's not right. I came like so I don't remember if Watchmen was PG-13 or R, but it was more R for violence sake than what it really needed to be. I mean, could they have gotten away with a PG-13 rating? Absolutely, but it didn't really need it. It didn't really need an R rating if it had, and I haven't looked up to find out if it actually did. Another movie that could have got away with a PG-13 rating is Wolverine, the Wolverine movie series, the X-Men Origins Wolverine or the Wolverine, whichever one you choose to actually follow. Both of those got PG-13 ratings, decent movies. The problem was that when they dialed things back, um, you kind of took a lot away from Wolverine in general. Could they have done a little bit more? I think if you had stuck a little bit closer to the comic books, you would have had a little bit better off on just storytelling. Um, but one movie that actually did benefit from a hard R rating was Blade. Blade, I mean, not all, the first two. First two were actually really good. And then the third one, don't know what they did. Um, I don't think Wesley was actually involved in the creative process for that one. But Blade was one of those movies where I felt that people really didn't know that he was a comic book character, so he had a lot more freedom and leeway to kind of do whatever he wanted in that particular universe. And Blade largely was more so a vampire movie than a superhero movie to be quote unquote fact. Um, the thing about Deadpool is that I really feel that the reason Deadpool needed to be a hard R rating wasn't so much for the violence, but the jokes that they needed to tackle, the fourth wall breaks that they needed to kind of acknowledge, like because you can do the jokes, but if you're not telling adult jokes, like it really dumbs down the character as a whole. You don't get the full range of emotions of why Deadpool had to be a hard R rating. Similarly, for that, the other thing that I just don't understand is like now everybody's like, oh, other comic book characters that could benefit from a hard R rating, hard R, like, and I really just can't see anybody else that really needs a hard R. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people right now are calling for Moon Knight to have a hard R rating, and I just don't see it because Moon Knight, he has so many similarities to Batman, but differences like completely different backgrounds at the same time. Like, and I don't feel that you could do a Moon Knight story justice in the time frame that they allow most superhero movies. Most superhero movies are only about like max 2 hours, 2 hours max. You're not going to be able to get his mercenary background, his psychotic breakdown, like his training, the suit, the alternate personalities. You're not going to be able to get it without it being hokey. Um, Although I think that they could redo Spawn, but I don't know if you could really redo Spawn today without it being hokey. Like, the original Spawn was kind of cheesy. Let's be honest. As phenomenal as it was, as phenomenal as Michael Jai White is, it was still a little cheesy in a couple moments. Like, it, I don't know how you could redo it. But at the same time, like, I just don't understand. Not that I don't understand. I don't feel at this particular moment that a lot of superheroes would benefit from hard R rating movies. Um, because I think you could tone down the language a bit, tone down the violence a bit, and you can get a PG-13 rating out of them. I think the reason Deadpool needed a hard R rating was because how he tackles jokes, like how he deals with banter. It wasn't. It's not the sex scenes. It's not the violence. It's the fact that like when you tell adult level jokes, those don't really need to be told to like 13-year-old kids. Like there's a reason like adult jokes can't be told to everybody. Like it's just I don't know. I don't feel that Hollywood is really ready or fully understands like a hard R rating for Deadpool and a hard R rating for other comic book characters. Like like I said, Wolverine is immensely popular, not powerful, popular, and he needed a PG-13 rating because you could just take out some of the language, tone down the blood and violence, and you get a pretty all right um, Wolverine movie. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Here's what I can do. I can throw it out to you. Let me know what you think of another character who needs a hard R rating and why. Uh, Let me know down in the description below or the comments below, and I'll hit you guys back. Welcome to Big Fire Entertainment. Hashtag FATR. Forget about the rules.